Daniel, because when I lived in Boston, I had heard of CASPIS, and it's always been this legendary program that I hope one day, maybe when my kids are older, I can go live out in the tent cabins and do. But now, in the next 18 years, I'm stuck here. So, so I'm Dara Silverstein. I work at Stanford University in residential and dining enterprises, and I run the Sustainable Food Program, and I'm also a lecturer at the D School and School of Earth Systems. So just a little place setting, R&DE, we serve 18,000 meals a day. So, a significant number. We house a lot of students. We have 24 locations, and we have a strong commitment to nutrition and sustainability, and of course, deliciousness and flavor. And since this is, I think, the theme of the conference was connected food features, I tried to use that theme throughout to show a handful of the things that we're doing. And actually, I feel like there's a lot of mimicking of what you're doing, and very similar. But for our sustainable food program, actually it started about 10 years ago, and very similar, where the students asked the provost, they wanted gardens on campus by the dining hall. So started with a garden, and now it's expanded to, I have 10 organic teaching gardens. I've actually hired CASPIS alumni to help run them. Stanford separately has a farm now, about 7-acre farm at the School of Earth Systems, run by CASPIS alumni. A lot of CASPIS alumni, they really are everywhere. But we started with our organic gardens, and now the program encompasses, purchasing, who are we buying from, energy efficiency, water efficiency, sort of anything in the realm. And then in the past 2 years, I've expanded it into teaching too, thinking that the students really are our future. So I try to think of it holistically, from sort of the, the garden, like a garden right outside your dorm. Could I get every student, every freshman to garden just 1 hour? Because you never know what that gardening can lead to with those examples of those alumni doing amazing things in the world. And sometimes people, we have students from all over the world, they may not have that experience. So, we have these gardens, we have work days 2 or 3 days a week, and sometimes I have garden interns too, and some of them are pretty amazing. I have one right now, I'll show some of the examples, but we're doing gleaning on Friday, and then jam making, and she and her friends get up at like 7 a.m. and bake breakfast so we can get more students in the gardens. And there's really just like a real excitement with certain students, and some even go on to become farmers or working in the food system, which is, I think, one of my big goals. And then we also have our teaching kitchen. So, I was thinking of it as like from, the garden to then they can go take a class at the Stanford farm. They can take classes in our teaching kitchen, and then they can study it. There is a track in the School of Earth Systems, Food and Ag. So this sort of holistic student. And then we like to think of them as the future leaders. They could found Google, which serves so many more meals than we do and has a great sustainable food program, if they did found Google. So like, who are the next leaders like that? And Google then influences every other company, Airbnb has an amazing food program, probably because of Google, and so does Facebook. And think of all of that food that's being purchased and people being educated in their, where they're eating. You can also have people going into policy, anything. So we're trying to think of what are the topics we need to educate them on, while also like, what are we buying, for the dining halls, and how do we kind of, you have 4 years of people, this captive audience, and then also future parents. So you see pictures of the kids, and when you become a parent, like, you really start to change your food buying behaviors and think more about your food. And how do we educate the little kids that eat in our dining halls, all the grad students and the postdocs and their families? Tons of them. We actually have more postdocs eating in the dining halls than undergrads. And then when we look at our undergrads, my predecessor, Matt Roth, who I'll show later, he runs the Feed Collaborative at the D School, which is really amazing. He did a calculation that our current undergrads in the meal plan will eat 250 million meals in the future. And then every year we get another like 1,600 undergrads. So that's a lot of, just like behavior change. And if you can change those behaviors, that can have that ripple effect and can go on to, really change the world. So that is our hope. So we do it, I'll show sort of a different ways that we're doing it. So one of the first ones is connecting to the farmers. Who are we buying from? So didn't really think about this when I made it, but this is Jared, who is an alum of CASPIS from Pie Ranch. We've had, along with Google and Airbnb is here, so I'm pointing at them, we have had a really unique purchasing situation with Pie Ranch for the past few years, like a CSA 2.0, where we guarantee a certain amount of money, which is quite a lot, and basically buying a ton of kale. They're in Pescadero, so different climate, kale, beets, potatoes, things like that. And then we try to, like my job is ramping in that education program. So Jared comes on, we do some education, then we go into our teaching kitchen, and we actually had too much kale in the beginning, so then we had kale pesto and kale pizza, and really actually, you know, talk about flavor and deliciousness, like a kale pesto and a kale dressing that's still on the menu. I did this cooking class more so I could just get those recipes for myself from the chefs. It was like but that was part of our Know Your Food, like a Farm to Fork series where I bring speakers in to talk about food, you know, the system of food, and, you know, jobs and just the different ideas there. Connecting with small farms, so another, you know, major portion of our work. So we have, along with, you know, many organizations now, the Ugly Produce or Deliciously Imperfect. So we've been really scaling that up over the past 3 years with an organic farm, Coke Farm, which is a hub in Salinas area, and they source from about 50 small to medium-sized family organic farmers. So it's a great way to really increase our impact, increase the amount of organic purchasing. I think we're at like 40,000 pounds. We've doubled it since last year, which has been pretty awesome. We actually have a chef now who is like dedicated to that purchasing. Like all of these are very complicated systems. Our goals are good, but they take a lot of time. And then we also buy we have a Stanford farm that was, like I said, also run by the Gastos alum, so we buy from them, and you know, we bring students on tours there. I'll be there tomorrow with a group of students. You know, the whole food system, so fishermen, for the past about 8 years, we worked with a family fishery in Alaska, and any seafood out of Alaska is considered sustainable since they've written sustainability and seafood into the Alaskan Constitution, so it's a really great model. So we buy direct from this family fishery, Taco River Reds, and that's Kirk. He comes down. His parents live in Sonoma, so he comes like twice a year. He'll like stay with me, text, you know, like he actually wanted to come in today. And we bring him into the dining halls, get him to meet the students. A lot of students I'll end up working with will do class projects on him. Some have gone to Alaska, done podcasts, you know, done different research related to the fisheries because of things like the mine, you know, the pebble mine that might go up there. And so here's a picture, I can really hear it moving twice, with our class where we brought him in. He just happened to be in for the first class 2 years ago, so we brought him and a nonprofit to talk, Salmon State, to talk about the issues of sustainable fisheries. So, you know, we try to basically link purchasing to education. And also connecting to our community. The number one email I say that I get from students is on food donations. So for the past 2 years, I've focused on that. We had one food donation system going for many years, where a dining hall, our exec ed was packaging extra food, freezing it, and then there was a man that would come and pick it up and bring it to East Palo Alto once a week. Now I've been able to work with Peninsula Food Runners, and we have every dining hall going. We also have student interns that help me. We have another student group, Spoon. They just launched doing collecting some breakfast from one dining hall, because breakfast was an area we just haven't tackled. It's a lot of work, all of this, a lot of coordination with the donors. But you know, we just talked about the issues. Like, there are a lot of people hungry in our county and in our area, and there are volunteers. A lot of them are either alums. We have a pastor who lives on campus who picks it up, drives it down to San Jose to his church, and they give it to undocumented immigrants who don't want to go to the food bank. And we also have really delicious food. So, and we're a buffet style, and all you care to eat. So there's always going to be some extra. We're really working on, for the technology side, we use LeanPath and the waste weighing system. So I spend a lot of time with the chefs of cutting down what we're producing, especially on meat, because we're looking at the greenhouse gas impact and water. But food waste is one of the biggest climate change impacts. If you look at like the report Drawdown, it's number 2 or 3 in plant-forward diets, or, you know, solutions, and the plant-forward diets is the other one. So those are our 2 really big things we focus on in impact. But so here's some of our staff at Ricker Dining working on the food donation. And also we were just chosen by I don't know what they are, like a non-profit sort of thing that had scoured our county looking. They're working with IDEO to build a food truck that will come twice a day to all the dining halls, pick up the food, and then directly deliver it into a low-income neighborhood. And it will be like a very nice way for families to be able to get food in their neighborhood. I think it will go to a school in Mountain View. So that will be really lovely, and I think we'll get a lot more food because of the consistency of it. So we also, connecting through gardens, I just realized that got cut off, but like I said before, we have 10 organic teaching gardens, and actually have a couple more. We have our resident fellows in the residential education system, and I've been connecting more with them and trying to integrate the sustainable food into the dorms life. So there's a program called the Structured Liberal Education, and the students live together, and then they take all their classes together. And so, but they read things like Ovid and, like Marx and things that I'm like, I don't know how to tie this into what I do, but you can figure it out. But they want to have more gardens. So we're looking at building gardens for them, and I hired an intern, and this is what like one student can do. So we probably worked together for a month, and she's had, we planted out the garden, we had a garden work day, she had a poetry circle in the garden, and they wrote poetry on the sticks, and they put it in the garden, and tomorrow they'll be gleaning loquats, and then I think next week we'll be making jam, and so we're sort of there like every week doing stuff, and she's getting the students, and she's actually a master gardener, a freshman, who just found me like, I love to garden, and I want to do something with this, and I was like, all right, let's figure it out. And then we have another dorm, Robley, which is the sustainability dorm. So we're doing sort of the same sort of things. We just put beehives at both those dorms. So we'll be doing honey tastings and honey spinning workshops and visiting the Stanford farm and sort of like all of these sort of things together. But the idea is just to bring that sustainability education into their lives. And I try to use every method possible because I don't know what will work. So the gardens is one. And then I also manage the community gardens on campus. We have an acre of community gardens. It's about 164 plots or so, and that is fun. Just kidding. It's a lot of work, and every people's water being stolen is all sorts of fun. So, but that's, people love the gardens. And I forgot to mention, people love the gardens. People love seeds, so I started a seed library, and we put out a different seed every month, and we have like 2,000 people on the email list, and they come and pick up seeds, and then we started doing a seed by mail subscription program, like $10 a year, and so we inter-office mail it, and that's like 175 people right now. I actually think I have to cap it, because it's turned out to be a lot of work, but we're doing like bushy cucumbers this month, and Holland white cucumbers, so it's a fun way to engage like staff and faculty too. That's mostly staff, faculty, and grad students. The next thing is our academics. So I mentioned the Feed Collaborative, which was founded at the D School by Matt Roth, who's my predecessor in my job. And they look at teaching design thinking and using design thinking to solve big problems in the food system. So he has a range of classes, and we created one called Grow It, Cook It, Eat It, and an experiential education on how and why we eat what we eat, I think is what it was called. And so we're using, like I said, design thinking to solve issues like food waste or climate change and red meat or culture and food. So it's been a really great way of working with students that they can take this knowledge, learn design thinking, and then really get like a general understanding of the food system. Part of the class is also in our teaching kitchen, which we launched, I think, in 2014 or 2015, I don't know. But we have a teaching kitchen in one of the dining halls. We have a chef, David Hyatt, that is dedicated to it, and we launched it with the Jamie Oliver Food Foundation, though we've now really changed it a lot because there are academic classes, like the med school has the doctor is in, and so this is a great where doctors aren't learning nutrition and cooking, but giving advice on those things, so they come in and do cooking classes. We have one of our actually community gardeners who's a professor of biology, I think, Marcus Covert. He teaches a class where they do the science of cooking, on Mondays in the lecture hall, in the dining hall, we have a lecture room there, and then on Fridays they're in the teaching kitchen doing like the R&D experiments of learning about, browning food or whatever it is. So giving students that hands-on education, and this is our class there, where they were, prototyping ideas of plant-forward menu items that could go in the dining hall. So, and they would do the design thinking research out with students, like what are students looking for. And then we also work with other academic classes, so there's a whole range of them. I work with probably about 25 class projects a year, from global warming paradox, design for extreme affordability, science, engineering, and society. So actually Kimberly there was doing a D school class, and they were doing some prototyping. We think of our dining halls as a living laboratory. We also connect our students with different partners. They might work with one of the farmers we're working with, or a lot of them are doing like art and food and pop-up dinners and zines and things like that. So sort of leveraging all of the connections that we have. One of the coolest things right now, we're working with one of the most coolest classes at Stanford is designed for extreme affordability, and they've created things like the Embrace baby warmer, which is used around the world to save babies' lives in remote regions. And there's a group that went to the Philippines, so they partner with a nonprofit, and there's a nonprofit in the Philippines, and I guess the fishermen there are losing about a third of their fish for lack of ice and refrigeration. People like take ice from their freezers and there's not enough. So they're using our freezers to like prototype ice, making ice faster, and working with different like refrigeration people I know to try to figure this out, and they are figuring it out. They'll be presenting in like 2 weeks. So that's a really neat way of just sort of using what we have. There's other partnerships. This is back to our class. This is Peru from Real Food, Real Stories. So we bring in guest speakers, and just thinking of, there's all these experts like you guys out there that, bringing you in to educate our students. She talked about storytelling, which is a really big part of the education of what we do. And this was a lecture that the students we all were like so refreshed from hearing her story, and so excited of like, how do you tell the story of different, products or farmers, or, to get people to change what they're doing. Another thing we're doing, I feel like I'm running out of time, so I'll go quick, is research. So we have 2 levels of research we do. So one, we actually now have a flavor lab, which I have a feeling is probably modeled after you guys. So Lars, you're invited anytime to come help. But this is like a toast bar pop-up, and we have a chef, Erica, who's dedicated to this and doing R&D on menu items. So, like we have the blended burger, like many have the mushroom and beef burger, which reduces your beef and red meat impact, and now she's doing a turkey lentil. Or how do you make items, like I look at food waste, so they're throwing away a lot of beans, like how do we make these dishes more delicious? Like it's all about flavor and deliciousness, so how do we, rejigger our menus? And we also do research, I might talk about that in a second, in the dining halls through our Menus of Change University Research Collaborative. So this is an organization co-founded by my director, Eric Montel, and the Culinary Institute of America. And if you know the Menus of Change conference in New York every year, it's really wonderful. It has a goal of healthy and more sustainable menus, and groups from all over, like McDonald's, Panera, chefs from all over come out. And so his idea was, there are a lot of universities. Well, first of all, go back to, there are 24 principles that the whole thing is based on that you can see, but we use them for our work, like guiding, how do we do menus? But the idea is we have 59 or so universities plus members like Google and Airbnb and the Olympics, and we're all working on things such as education, so I co-lead the education working group. So if I'm working on something that can be distributed to 59 other universities, or I can get ideas from them, we collaborate and collate it all. There's chefs working on menu items together. There are research, like real research being done in the dining halls, and I'll go to one of those. So we do a lot of pilot research, and then other universities do it, and so you can get a larger set of like, how do you really change behaviors related to